The day of my daughter Lily's wedding was a watercolor painting of soft pinks and creams, a gentle masterpiece I had spent months helping her bring to life. Every detail, from the blush-colored roses climbing the altar to the string quartet playing softly in the garden, was a testament to the love that surrounded her. My heart swelled with a pride so fierce it felt like a physical presence in my chest. This was it. This was the culmination of every scraped knee I had cleaned, every bedtime story I had read, every tear I had wiped away. Seeing Lily, radiant in her ivory lace gown, her smile as bright as the morning sun, was a reward more precious than any jewel. We stood in the bridal suite, a sun-drenched room overlooking the sprawling lawns where guests were beginning to gather. Lily was adjusting the delicate veil that had once been mine, her fingers gentle and sure. She caught my eye in the ornate mirror, and the look we shared was one of pure, uncomplicated love. There were no shadows between us, no secrets. I had made sure of it. I had built our world, just the two of us, on a foundation of honesty and unwavering support, a fortress against the ghosts of the past. Or so I had thought. The ghost of my own past had a name: Helen, my mother. For 14 years, she had been a phantom, a whisper in the back of my mind, a story I had carefully edited for Lily's ears. Grandma Helen lives very far away, I'd say when Lily was little. She travels a lot. As she grew older, the questions became more pointed, and the answers more vague. The truth was a tangled, painful knot I couldn't bring myself to unravel for her. How could I explain that my own mother had walked out of my life with a suitcase in one hand and a half-hearted apology on her lips, leaving behind a silence that had deafened me for years? How could I explain a kind of abandonment that I, myself, had never fully understood? So I didn't. I packed her away, like an old photograph with faded edges, into a box in the attic of my memory. Life became about me and Lily. We were a team. Her laughter filled the spaces Helen's absence had carved out, and her successes became my own. I was both mother and father, confidant and protector. I convinced myself we didn't need anyone else. We were whole. A gentle knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was the wedding planner, her face a mask of polite efficiency. "Eleanor, just a few minutes now. The guests are seated." I nodded, my throat suddenly tight. I turned back to Lily, taking her hands in mine. They were cold. "Nervous?" I asked, stroking her knuckles. She shook her head, a soft smile playing on her lips. "Excited. It just feels perfect. Everything. Thank you, Mom, for all of it." "I'd do it all again in a heartbeat," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. And I would have. I would have fought dragons for this day, for her happiness. I just never imagined the dragon would be my own mother, appearing at the gates of the life I had so carefully constructed. The string quartet outside transitioned from a soft prelude to the more purposeful, elegant notes of Pachelbel's canon, the cue that the procession was about to begin. I gave Lily's hands one last squeeze. "It's time," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'll see you at the altar." I walked out of the bridal suite and into the main hall of the historic manor we had rented for the occasion. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and roses, and the low hum of expectant chatter filled the space. My role was simple: walk down the aisle, take my seat in the front row, and watch my daughter step into her future. I smoothed down my silk dress, took a deep breath to steady my nerves, and began my walk. Each step was a memory. The first time Lily held my finger in the hospital, her first day of school, her little hand waving bravely from the bus window, the high school graduation where she'd blown me a kiss from the stage. My heart was a kaleidoscope of emotions: joy, nostalgia, and a profound sense of accomplishment. I had done it. I had raised a wonderful, kind, and loving woman, all on my own. I reached my seat, the velvet cushions soft beneath my hand. I turned, my smile ready for the moment the large oak doors would swing open to reveal my daughter. But my smile froze. My breath caught in my throat. Standing near the back, half hidden by a large floral arrangement, was a woman I hadn't seen in 14 years. It was her, Helen. She looked older, of course. The lines around her eyes were deeper, her dark hair now threaded with silver. But the set of her jaw, the way she held her head, tilted slightly to the side as if perpetually questioning the world, that was unchanged. She was wearing a simple navy blue dress, looking entirely out of place, and yet, somehow, completely certain of her right to be there. Our eyes met across the crowded room, and in that instant, the carefully constructed fortress around my heart crumbled into dust. A wave of heat washed over me, a potent cocktail of rage and disbelief. How dare she? How dare she show up here on this day of all days after years of deafening silence? The letters I had sent, filled with anger and then pleading, all returned unopened. The phone numbers that were always disconnected. She had vanished, excised herself from our lives with the precision of a surgeon. And now she was here, a ghost materializing at the most sacred of moments. The wedding planner, a woman with a perpetually cheerful demeanor, touched my arm gently. "Eleanor, are you all right? You look a little pale." I couldn't tear my eyes away from the back of the room. I'm fine," I lied, my voice thin and reedy. The oak doors began to open. The music swelled. This was it. Lily was about to walk down the aisle. My mind raced, a chaotic storm of possibilities. Do I scream? Do I cause a scene? Do I march to the back and demand she leave? But one look at the beatific smile on my daughter's face as she appeared at the entrance, her arm linked with her father's, paralyzed me. I couldn't ruin this for her. This day was hers, not mine. The battle with my mother, a war I thought had ended in a quiet defeat years ago, would have to wait. I sank into my seat, my body trembling. I was a stranger in my own skin, my joy eclipsed by a shadow I thought I had outrun. As Lily glided down the aisle, a vision in white, all I could see was the ghost in the back, a harbinger of a past I was no longer sure I could contain. Sitting in that front row seat felt like being trapped in a glass box. On the outside, there was beauty and joy. The minister's voice was warm and kind, the words of the ceremony weaving a tapestry of love and commitment around Lily and her new husband, James. The sunlight streamed through the large arched windows, catching the dust motes dancing in the air and illuminating the radiant smile on my daughter's face. I saw her hand tremble as she placed the ring on James's finger, and my heart ached with a love so pure it was almost painful. But inside the glass box, with me, was a storm. Every rustle of fabric from the back of the hall, every cough, sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I was acutely, agonizingly aware of Helen's presence. She was a magnetic north, pulling my attention, my anger, my pain. I risked a glance over my shoulder, my movement so slight I hoped no one would notice. She was still there, partially obscured. She hadn't moved. Was she crying? Was her face a mask of cold indifference? I couldn't tell, and the not knowing was a special kind of torture. "Do you, Lily, take James to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Lily's voice was clear and strong when she said, "I do." The sound of it, so full of hope and conviction, was a sharp contrast to the chaos in my own heart. This was the life I had built for her. A life of certainty, of love that doesn't walk away, of promises that are kept. A life without the kind of gaping wound Helen had left in mine. A fresh wave of anger washed over me, hot and suffocating. The love I was witnessing, this beautiful, unconditional bond, was the very thing Helen had so easily, so carelessly, discarded. I forced myself to clap when they kissed, the sound of my palms hitting each other feeling distant and foreign. The applause in the room was thunderous, a celebration of a beginning. But for me, it felt like a countdown. The ceremony was over. The buffer of ritual and public focus was gone. The recessional music began, a joyful, soaring melody. Lily and James, now husband and wife, turned to face the cheering guests. As they walked back down the aisle, their faces alight with pure, unadulterated happiness, Lily's eyes found mine. She gave me a small, private wink, a gesture between just the two of us, a silent, "We did it." I smiled back, a feat of muscular control that felt Herculean. My lips trembled, but I held the smile in place, a mask of maternal pride. They passed my row, and then the guests began to stir, rising from their seats to follow the wedding party out to the gardens for the reception. The carefully ordered rows of people dissolved into a moving, chattering sea. My moment of reckoning was here. I could no longer just sit and watch. I had to move, to act. My first instinct was to intercept, to get to Helen before she could get to Lily. My daughter deserved this one perfect day, unmarred by a past she didn't even know existed. I stood up, my legs unsteady, and turned. The crowd was thick, a kaleidoscope of pastel dresses and dark suits. I scanned the back of the room, my heart hammering against my ribs. And then I saw her. She was no longer hiding behind the flowers. She was moving, slowly, deliberately, not towards the exit, but towards the aisle, towards me. Panic, cold and sharp, sliced through me. Every protective instinct I had honed over the years roared to life. This was the threat I had spent a decade and a half preparing for without even realizing it. My feet felt rooted to the floor as Helen closed the distance between us. The chattering guests flowed around her like a river around a stone, oblivious to the invisible, high-stakes drama unfolding in their midst. Her face was unreadable. It wasn't the face of a repentant mother seeking forgiveness, nor was it the defiant face of a woman claiming her rights. It was something more complex, etched with a weariness that seemed to go bone deep. She stopped a few feet away from me, close enough that I could see the fine lines around her mouth, close enough that the scent of her perfume, the same one she used to wear, a faint aroma of jasmine and regret, pricked at my memory. "Eleanor," she said. Her voice was lower than I remembered, rougher around the edges as if it had been rusted by disuse. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my own voice a low, fierce whisper. I kept my back partially to the aisle, trying to shield this toxic reunion from Lily, who was now greeting guests in the sunlit entryway. "I came to see my granddaughter get married," she replied, her gaze flickering past me towards the garden. The simplicity of her answer was a slap in the face. "Your granddaughter?" I hissed, the words dripping with 14 years of venom. "You lost the right to call her that when you walked out. You don't get to just appear after all this time and claim a title you abandoned." A flicker of something, pain maybe, crossed her face, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "I know you're angry." "Angry?" I let out a short, incredulous laugh that was dangerously close to a sob. "Angry doesn't even begin to cover it. I was destroyed. You were my mother, and you left. No explanation, no forwarding address. Just gone. Do you have any idea what that does to a person? To a child?" My voice was rising, and a few nearby guests turned their heads. Helen glanced around, her composure finally cracking. "Please, Eleanor, not here, not now. There is no here and now for you and me," I shot back, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. "You made that choice a long time ago. You don't get to waltz back in on the happiest day of my daughter's life and pretend you belong here." "I just wanted to see her," she repeated, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "You can see her from a distance," I said, my words cold and hard as stone. "You are a spectator, Helen. Nothing more. You will not approach her. You will not speak to her, and you will not ruin this day for her. After the reception is over, you will leave, and you will not come back." The ultimatum hung in the air between us, heavy and absolute. I was drawing a line in the sand, a boundary that had been crossed the moment she stepped into the manor. I was no longer the heartbroken daughter she had left behind. I was a mother, a protector, and the fortress I had built around Lily was not going to fall. Not today. Helen held my gaze, and for a moment I saw the ghost of the mother I once knew, the woman who had taught me how to ride a bike and how to stand up for myself. It was that flicker of recognition, that ghost of a memory, that made her next words hit me with the force of a physical blow. "She contacted me, Eleanor." My blood ran cold. "What?" "Lily," Helen said, her voice barely audible over the celebratory din. "She found me. She's been writing to me for months. She's the one who invited me today." Helen's words hung in the air, seeming to warp the joyful sounds of the reception into a dull, meaningless roar. It felt as if the floor had dropped out from under me, leaving me suspended in a dizzying abyss of disbelief. Lily found her? Lily invited her? It was a possibility so far outside the realm of what I understood about my daughter, about our life, that my mind refused to accept it. It was a sentence in a foreign language that I couldn't translate. The fortress I had so carefully constructed around our two-person family, the one designed to keep the ghosts of the past at bay, hadn't been stormed. The gate had been unlocked from the inside. My carefully orchestrated anger at Helen, the righteous fury that had been fueling me for the last hour, evaporated in an instant. It was replaced by a new, more bewildering and profound pain. The sting of betrayal. Not from the mother who had always been a disappointment, but from the daughter who had been my entire world. I looked at Helen, truly looked at her, and saw not an invading monster, but a woman standing in a room she'd been invited into. My power, my righteous indignation, was gone. I was no longer the gatekeeper. I was just uninformed, left out of the biggest secret of all. I didn't say another word to her. I simply turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone by the entrance to the now empty ceremony hall. My mission had changed. I was no longer trying to protect Lily from Helen. I was trying to find my daughter and understand how the world had shifted so dramatically beneath my feet without me even noticing. I stepped out into the bright sunshine of the garden. The scene was idyllic. Guests mingled on the manicured lawn, champagne flutes in hand. The string quartet was playing a lively Vivaldi piece. And there, in the center of it all, was Lily. She was laughing, her head thrown back, her hand resting on the arm of her new husband, James. She was the picture of happiness, radiant and carefree. My Lily, my daughter, who told me everything, the one who had no secrets from me. Seeing her so happy, a joy that just an hour ago was the source of my own, now felt like a performance I wasn't in on. Her laughter felt like a secret language I didn't speak. Every smile she shared with a guest felt like a confirmation of a world she had built without me, a world that included the one person I had tried so hard to erase. I moved through the crowd, my own smile plastered on my face, a brittle, unconvincing mask. I accepted congratulations that I barely heard, my eyes locked on my daughter. I needed to talk to her. I needed to look in her eyes and ask her if it was true. I reached her and James, who were surrounded by a circle of their friends. "Darling," I said, my voice unnaturally bright. "Could I borrow you for just a moment?" Lily's smile didn't falter. "Of course, Mom." She gave James's hand a squeeze. "I'll be right back." I led her away from the crowd, towards a quiet, secluded corner of the garden near a stone bench, shaded by the branches of an old willow tree. The cheerful sounds of the party became a distant murmur. She turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "Is everything okay? You've been acting a little strange since the ceremony?" I took a breath, the air feeling thin and sharp in my lungs. I looked at this beautiful young woman, my daughter, the center of my universe, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. "I spoke to Helen," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Lily's smile faltered, just for a second. A flicker of something I couldn't identify, guilt, apprehension, crossed her face before she smoothed it away. "Oh," she said softly. "You saw her." It was all the confirmation I needed. The ground was solid again, but it was a new, unfamiliar ground. "She told me you invited her," I said, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. "Is it true, Lily? Did you invite your grandmother to your wedding without telling me?" Lily's eyes, the same deep blue as my own, clouded with a pain that mirrored my own. She nodded, a small, almost imperceptible movement. "Yes," she whispered, her voice fragile. "I did." The single word was a confession and a confirmation. The secret was out, laid bare between us in the quiet corner of the garden. For a moment, I just stared at her, the daughter I thought I knew so well. The betrayal was a physical sensation, a cold weight in the pit of my stomach. "Why?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Lily, why would you do that? Why would you go behind my back and bring the one person who shattered my life to your wedding?" Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over and tracing paths down her flushed cheeks. "Because she's my grandmother," she said, her voice gaining a sliver of strength. "Because I deserve to know her, to know my own story." She took a shaky breath and continued, the words tumbling out as if a dam had broken. "I love the life you gave me, Mom. You were everything to me. But there was always a part of me that felt incomplete. A whole branch of my family tree was just gone. I had questions. I found your old letters in the attic a couple of years ago, the ones you wrote to her that came back unopened. I found her name and the city she was from. I felt a fresh jolt. My letters, the angry, pleading, heartbroken words of a daughter, deserted. I had thought them long gone, but I must have packed them away in a fit of sentimentality I couldn't even recall. "I hired a private investigator," Lily admitted, her voice dropping again. "It wasn't hard to find her, and I started writing to her. I needed to hear her side of it, Mom. I needed to understand." "Understand what?" I asked, the old bitterness creeping back in. "Understand how a mother abandons her child?" "Yes," Lily said, her gaze firm despite her tears. "And I learned things you never told me." I recoiled as if struck. "What could she possibly have told you that justifies what she did?" "It doesn't justify it," Lily insisted, shaking her head. "But it explains it. She was sick, Mom, not just sad. She was deeply depressed after Grandpa died. She said she felt like a ghost, that she was drowning and was going to pull you under with her. She thought leaving was the only way to save you from her own darkness. She told me it was the biggest mistake of her life, a mistake she has been paying for every single day for 14 years. I stood there, stunned into silence. Helen, depressed? The Helen I remembered was a force of nature, vibrant, loud, and full of life. The idea of her being crippled by a silent, invisible illness was so foreign, so completely at odds with the woman I had locked away in my memory. Had I been so blinded by my own pain that I couldn't see hers? Lily reached out and took my hand. Her touch was hesitant, but warm. I didn't tell you because I knew it would hurt you. I was scared. I thought, I thought if I could just get you both in the same room on a happy day, that maybe we could start to heal. It was a stupid, childish idea, and I am so sorry for hurting you, Mom. That was the last thing I ever wanted to do. I looked at my daughter's earnest, tear-streaked face. The betrayal I had felt began to dissolve, replaced by a wave of love so powerful it almost buckled my knees. She hadn't done this to hurt me. She had done this to heal us. It was a misguided, naive attempt, born from the same love that I had poured into her my whole life. She was trying to fix the broken pieces of our family, for all of us. My anger at Helen, the anger I had nurtured for 14 years, suddenly felt heavy and useless. It was a shield I had been carrying for so long, I had forgotten how much it weighed. Seeing my daughter, torn between the mother who raised her and the grandmother she longed to know, I realized the shield wasn't protecting me anymore. It was just keeping me pinned in the past. I squeezed Lily's hand. "It's my day too, Mom," she had told me once during the planning. But she was wrong. This day wasn't mine. It was hers. And I had a choice. I could let my past poison her present, or I could finally, after all these years, choose to let it go. For her. "Okay," I whispered, my voice thick. I wiped a tear from her cheek with my thumb. "Okay, sweetie, I understand." I took a deep breath, the garden air seeming to fill my lungs for the first time all day. I looked past Lily, across the lawn to where Helen was still standing, a solitary figure watching us from afar. She looked small, and old, and alone. Holding my daughter's hand tightly, I started walking, not back into the shadows of the willow tree, but out onto the sun-drenched lawn. We walked past the smiling, laughing guests, a mother and daughter who had just navigated the biggest secret of their lives. We walked directly towards Helen. She watched us approach, her face a mixture of fear and fragile hope. When we stopped in front of her, the three of us formed a small, silent triangle, the past and the future, standing face to face in the present. I looked at Helen, not with the fire of my old rage, but with the weary clarity of new understanding. The forgiveness wasn't there yet. The pain hadn't vanished. But for the first time, I saw a path forward. "Helen," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "This is my son-in-law, James. Lily would like to introduce you." Helen's eyes filled with tears, but these were not tears of sorrow. A watery, trembling smile broke through. She looked at Lily, then at me, and nodded, unable to speak. I let go of Lily's hand, placing it in her grandmother's. It was a small gesture, but it was everything. A concession, an opening, a beginning. As Lily led her grandmother to meet her new husband, I stood back and watched. The ghost that had haunted me for 14 years was finally just a woman, her hand in her granddaughter's, taking her first tentative steps back into the light. And I, for the first time, felt free.